Hi, you're watching Floyd Steinberg's YouTube channel. This is the Yamaha MU2000, the last General MIDI or XG desktop box ever built. So if you're interested what this box is capable of, please join me in this video. Here we go. Let's take a look at the hardware. This thing very much looks like a high-end stereo system from the late 90s. There are two audio in plugs, some knobs for adjusting input and output volume, a power switch, a MIDI import, headphone out, a big and bright LC display, a smart media card slot, a panel of buttons for selecting patches, a jog wheel and the editor buttons on the front panel. On the back we find two more MIDI imports and MIDI out and through as well, a MIDI mode selector switch, a PC host connector, stereo in and output kinch sockets, a Sony Philips digital optical and a USB 2 port. The PSU connector is here as well. There's also a slot for expansion cards here and we'll take a look at that later hopefully. The MU2000 was sold in Japan exclusively, so if you buy one on eBay, you also want to buy an adapter for your local power sockets, like this one for the EU region. Moreover, all the manuals and documentation are printed in Japanese, but luckily someone went through the work of translating all of them to English. There's a Facebook group that has these documents and I'll link that in this video's description. Before we begin, let's update the MU2000. If your MU2000 does not show up as MU2000EX when you turned on, it's most likely not running the latest firmware. The MU2000 was one of the first devices with a USB port, and amazingly, Yamaha's MIDI drivers still support it on Windows 11. So download and install that driver and then the firmware update, then set the MU2000 to USB mode with the switch on the back and connect directly to your computer. Do not use a USB host. Then run the firmware update. The update is divided into two parts, and the first one will ask you to hold drum, play and value minus while turning on the MU2000. Follow the instructions the program gives you. The update will take some minutes, and don't ever turn off your PC or the MU2000. The second update program will take even longer. Be patient and everything will work just fine. The firmware update adds Roland compatibility and a handful of new effects, so it's definitely worth the trouble. The synth can run in three different modes: XG, GS or PF, which means Extended General MIDI, Yamaha's own interpretation of the standard, General MIDI or Performance. Performance mode is kind of for sound designers. It basically turns this into a 4-oscillator subtractive digital synth, and you can edit filters, envelopes, effects, control assignments and so on. In this mode you can access 128 preset patches, and there's storage for 128 user-made patches here. Here are some of those patches that show off reverb, chorus, flanger, amp sims and all that synth stuff. You know, that's the mode for people who went to a music shop after school to browse the patches on the newest synthesizer they had on display there. The MU2000 has two audio inputs which can be used both as a stereo input or mono microphone and guitar inputs. The audio can be routed through the internal effects to add reverb, chorus, delay, phaser, EQ, compressors, amp models and a huge selection of other effects. The effects can be applied to the stereo track in sum or to each mono input individually. Here's my Reface DX synth without the MU2000's effects. And here it is with the MU2000's effects. There's a simple sampler built into this box as well. You can capture samples with the audio inputs and you've got 4 MB of RAM at your disposal, which translates to roughly 42 seconds of mono audio in 16-bit 44.1 kHz. I'll load a WAV file from this smart media card though. It's a sample I made of a hang drum previously, which you can download from my Gumroad shop, where it exists as a multi-sample for MPC-1 and other samplers. Once that sample is loaded into memory, you can assign it to a voice or a drum kit. Voice is for playing melodies and chords, and that's what I'll do here. Each voice can have only one sample. Once you've assigned and named your samples and voices, press play and then select to switch to the user voice bank. Your new voice should show up there now. And then there's XG mode. In this mode, you can use up to 64 MIDI channels and the 2 audio tracks to create music. All voices in this mode can be controlled by CC commands to change synth parameters, so you can do your own filter sweeps, panning and everything. In XG mode, you can choose from 58 drum kits and 1396 preset patches. You can change a lot of parameters on those patches. Please watch my XG video for more information on this. Here I'm browsing through all the drum kits and some XG patches. The MU2000 was also advertised to feature a sequencer, but that thing is just a MIDI playback function. You can load a MIDI file from your smart media card and then play it back using the General MIDI standard. In fact, some of my Japanese viewers told me that this was the box to use for karaoke shows back in the early 2000s. One thing I really wanted to show you was the use of so-called PLG extension cards on the MU2000, and I found one on Reverb very cheap, the AN or virtual analog one, but unfortunately it got stuck in customs for days and days, some weeks now. So I'm going to do another video once that card finally arrives here. In the meantime, thanks so much for taking this channel to 25,000 subscribers, a number I would have considered totally impossible when I started this YouTube channel some years ago. And while YouTube itself says that subscriber count is not the number to measure a channel by, I think it's still a very important number. So if you like my content, please consider subscribing to this channel. This will help me making new contacts in the industry so I can show you interesting old and new stuff on this channel. I'll do a short demo using the Retrokits RK-008 here and the inTech grid controller. The RK-008 is a great battery-powered sequencer that I first saw on Superbooth this year, and it seemed to be in literally every booth. It has 2 MIDI inputs and 2 MIDI outputs, and the grid controller and the keyboard are connected to it here, and root MIDI to the MU2000. I've also set up my electric guitar using the internal effects. This is going into an amp sim, then reverb and chorus and stereo delay using one of the 4 freely assignable insert effects. I've also EQ'd the guitar to remove unwanted low end. Here's how it sounds using an endless sustain, but I've also overdubbed some rhythm guitars in the second take. Okay. Here's the track. With 128 voices, you can do the mixing in MIDI only. Only the guitar and the vocals were added later.
I know my plans have kind of failed, and I wasted your money and time. Poison in my veins,
Yeah, and that's it for today. Yamaha's MU2000 from Japan, the pinnacle of the General MIDI era. And if you think this was a good YouTube video, please do the YouTube thing. And if you want to support what I'm doing here financially, you can join my Patreon, become a member of this channel, or stream my music, for example, on Apple Music. As always, thanks for watching, and see you again very, very soon. Bye bye!